My husband asked me to carry his girlfriend's next baby. Not as a joke. Not in some weird nightmare conversation where everyone wakes up and apologizes. He sat across from me at our kitchen table, folded his hands like he was about to discuss a mortgage refinance, and said, "You carry so beautifully, and Brooke's body needs a break." Brooke, his girlfriend, the woman he had been sleeping with while married to me, the woman who already had one child with him. And now, apparently, the woman whose next baby he wanted me to grow inside my body. My name is Natalie. My husband's name is Ethan. And Brooke is the woman who turned my marriage into something people kept calling complicated because apparently betrayal made them uncomfortable. Ethan and I had been married for 9 years. We had 2 children together. Mason was 7. Avery was 4. Both pregnancies were hard. Not dramatic movie hard. Real hard. The kind where your feet swell until shoes feel personal. The kind where you throw up until your throat burns. The kind where you smile through baby shower comments while secretly wondering if your body is going to make it to the end. With Mason, I had preeclampsia near the end and was induced early. With Avery, I had placenta issues, months of monitoring, and a delivery that ended with me hemorrhaging badly enough that Ethan cried in the hallway while doctors worked around me. I remember waking up later, cold and shaking, with a nurse telling me I was okay. I remember Ethan holding my hand and saying, "Never again. I almost lost you." Never again. Funny how men remember promises only until another woman needs something. Brooke came into the picture 2 years later. She worked with Ethan at a real estate office. She was 29, soft-spoken, and always had that helpless little smile that made people rush to reassure her. At first, she was just a name. Then she was a name that came up too often. Then she was someone Ethan was helping through a rough season. Then she was pregnant. I found out because Ethan's phone lit up while he was giving Avery a bath. A message from Brooke. "Doctor says the baby looks perfect. Wish you had been there." The baby. I remember standing in the hallway with that phone in my hand, listening to my daughter splash in the tub while my entire life went silent. Ethan confessed badly. Most people do. He cried. He said it started during a difficult time. He said Brooke understood him. He said he never meant to hurt me. He said the baby was innocent. Everyone says that. The baby was innocent. I knew that. The baby did not cheat. The baby did not lie. The baby did not sit at my kitchen table years later and ask me to become a womb with a wedding ring. Brooke gave birth to a little boy named Theo. He is innocent too. I will never say otherwise. Mason and Avery know him as their half-brother. Carefully, slowly, with a therapist's help. Because unlike Ethan's family, I believe children deserve truth in age-appropriate doses. Not adults pretending betrayal is a cute blended family origin story. Ethan and I separated after Theo was born. Not divorced yet. That was the mistake. I stayed in that legal in-between because I was exhausted. Because lawyers cost money. Because the kids were struggling. Because Ethan kept saying he wanted to repair the family, which apparently meant keeping me nearby while he built a second life with Brooke. He rented an apartment near her. Then moved in part-time. Then started calling her place Theo's house. Then, one night, he asked to come over after the kids were asleep. He said, "We need to talk about something important." I thought it was about custody. Or money. Or finally signing divorce papers. I should have known better. Ethan came over wearing the sweater I bought him for our 8th anniversary. That annoyed me before he even sat down. There are few things more insulting than a man wearing your gift while asking you to sacrifice more for the woman he betrayed you with. He brought a folder. A folder. The men in these stories always bring folders when they know their request is insane. I looked at it and said, "No." He blinked. "I haven't even said anything." "You brought a folder." He sighed. "Natalie, please, just hear me out." I sat across from him because standing felt too aggressive, and I was trying not to be the version of myself everyone already accused me of being. Bitter. Angry. Difficult. He opened the folder. At the top of the first page were the words, "Family expansion option." I stared at the title. "Ethan." He rushed in. "Brooke and I have been talking." "Obviously." He flinched but kept going. "We want another child someday." I laughed once. Not because anything was funny. Because my nervous system had apparently chosen the emergency exit. "You came to my house to tell me you and Brooke want another baby." He said, "Not exactly." That is when my stomach dropped. Because "not exactly" is where people hide the real horror. He said Brooke's pregnancy with Theo had been difficult. She had gestational diabetes. She had postpartum depression. She was still physically recovering. He said her doctor had warned her that another pregnancy might be hard on her body. I said, "Then maybe do not have another baby right now." He looked at me like I had missed the point. "We're exploring options." I looked at the folder again. "What options?" He took a breath. Then he said it. "We were wondering if you would consider being our surrogate." For a second, I genuinely heard static. Like my brain refused to translate the sentence into meaning. I said, "What?" He leaned forward. "Natalie, listen, you carry so beautifully." I stood up so fast the chair scraped backward. "Do not say that to me." He raised both hands. "I mean that as a compliment. You mean it like I'm livestock." His face twisted. "That's not fair." "No, Ethan. What's not fair is asking your wife to carry a baby for your girlfriend." He said, "You're still the mother of my children." I stared at him. "That is why this is disgusting." He looked hurt. Hurt. As if I had insulted him. He continued anyway, because men like Ethan always think if they explain the insane idea softly enough, it becomes reasonable. He said the baby would be biologically his and Brooke. They had looked into embryos. They had researched agencies. Surrogacy was expensive. Strangers were complicated. But I was already family. Already family. I said, "I am your wife." He said, "Separated wife." That one landed cold. Not because I wanted him. Because the correction told me exactly how he saw me. Wife when he needed access. Separated wife when he needed distance. Mother when he needed guilt. Family when he needed my body. I said, "So I'm separate enough for you to live with Brooke, but close enough to carry her baby." He rubbed his forehead. "That's not what I mean." "It is exactly what you mean." He tried another angle. He said, "It would bond you to the child." I stared at him. "What child?" "Our next child." "Your next child." He swallowed. "Fine, my next child." "And why do I need to be bonded to your next child?" His voice softened, like this was the beautiful part. "Because you'll be watching them grow up from a distance anyway. This could help you feel included." Included. That word made me feel physically sick. Included. In the family I was being removed from. Included by carrying a baby I would not raise. Included by stretching my skin, risking my health, and handing over a newborn to the woman who had slept beside my husband while I was home with his children. I said, "You think pregnancy is a guest pass?" He frowned. "What?" "You think if I grow the baby, I'll be allowed to feel connected while you build a life I'm not part of." He said, "I'm trying to make this less painful." I laughed again. "No, Ethan, you are trying to make my pain useful." That shut him up for maybe 3 seconds. Then he said the sentence that still echoes in my head. You'd be giving me the greatest gift. The greatest gift. I looked at him. Really looked. This man had watched me hemorrhage after Avery. He had seen nurses press on my stomach while I screamed. He had sat beside me when I cried because I was afraid to sleep in case I did not wake up. He had told me never again. Now he wanted to wrap my trauma in a bow and hand it to Brooke. I said, I gave you 2 children. His face softened. I know. No, you don't. If you knew, you would not be asking for my body again like it's something you can borrow. He said, it wouldn't be like that. What would it be like? He looked down at the folder. There would be legal protections, medical care, compensation if you wanted. Compensation. I almost threw the folder across the room. You are offering to pay your wife to carry your affair partner's baby. He said, I'm saying we would do it properly. Properly. As if the problem was paperwork. I walked to the sink and gripped the counter because my hands were shaking. He followed me with his voice, not his body. Brooke respects you. I turned around slowly. Do not say her name like she is part of this conversation. She is part of this conversation. No, my uterus is not a conference room. He flinched. Good. I wanted him to. I asked, was this her idea? He hesitated. That hesitation was the answer. I said, Ethan. He said, she mentioned that you had easy pregnancies compared to hers. The room went silent. Easy pregnancies. Easy. My blood pressure. My induction. My hemorrhage. My emergency transfusion. My months of fear. Easy. I said very quietly, did you tell her I almost died? He looked away. I felt something inside me break cleanly. Not shatter. Break. Clean. Final. You didn't. He whispered, she knows there were complications. No, you let her believe I carried beautifully. He closed his eyes. I didn't want to scare her. That was the moment. Not the surrogate request. Not the folder. Not even the greatest gift line. That sentence. I didn't want to scare her. He protected Brooke from the truth of my suffering while asking me to repeat it for her benefit. I picked up the folder. For 1 second, I thought about tearing it in half. Instead, I opened it. Because I wanted to see how far this had gone. There were printed pages. Surrogacy agency information. Estimated costs. A rough timeline. A handwritten note in Brooke's round, careful handwriting. Natalie may say no at first, but remind her this could be healing for all of us. Healing. Of course. Cruel people love the word healing when they are asking you to bleed quietly. Below that, mention the siblings. It would be beautiful for Mason, Avery, Theo, and Baby to share a connected story. A connected story. My children's father had cheated, produced a baby with another woman, and now wanted me to carry the sequel. That was not a connected story. That was a hostage situation with nursery colors. I held up the note. You discussed how to pressure me. Ethan stood. No, we discussed how to approach you gently. You wrote down which guilt buttons to press. He said, that is not fair. Stop saying fair. He went quiet. I read another line. Explain that Natalie is already biologically connected through Mason and Avery's sibling relationship. I looked up. You want to use my children to rent my body. His face went pale. Natalie, no. Yes. No. Yes, that is exactly what this is. I walked to the front door and opened it. He looked stunned. We're not done. I said, we are. He stepped toward me. Please, don't make a decision out of anger. I said, I am not angry. And strangely, in that exact second, I was not. I was done. There is a difference. I said, you will leave this house. Tomorrow, all communication goes through attorneys unless it is about Mason and Avery. You will never bring up my body, my pregnancies, my medical history, or your future children with Brooke again. His eyes filled. Natalie. No. I thought maybe this could bring us closer. I stared at him. You asked me to carry your girlfriend's baby, so I could watch it grow up from a distance. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Good. Some sentences deserve to be heard exactly as they are. I said, you are not trying to bring me closer. You are trying to make me useful from far away. He started crying. I did not comfort him. I had comforted him enough. Through job losses. Through panic attacks. Through his father's surgery. Through our children's newborn nights. Through his guilt after the affair came out. Through Theo's birth, even. Yes. I had actually comforted him when Brooke went into labor, and he called me crying because he felt overwhelmed. That is how trained I was. That night, I watched him cry and felt nothing but exhaustion. He left with the folder. I stopped him before he got in the car. Leave the folder. He said, why? Because I want my lawyer to see it. His face changed. Fear. Finally. He handed it over. The next morning, I called my attorney. By noon, she had scanned everything. By evening, Ethan had sent 7 texts. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Brooke is horrified you're upset. We never meant pressure. Please don't make this ugly. That last one made me laugh. Do not make this ugly. As if I had introduced ugliness into the room. As if he had not walked into my kitchen with a folder titled Family Expansion Option. I replied once. You made this biological, emotional, and legal. I am responding accordingly. Then I muted him. Brooke emailed me 3 days later. Subject. A misunderstanding. I almost deleted it. Then I opened it, because apparently I needed one more piece of evidence for the Museum of Audacity. She wrote, Natalie, I am so sorry if our idea made you feel used. That was never my intention. I thought it might be a way for you to feel connected to all the children and to experience the beauty of carrying life again without the pressure of parenting from day one. Without the pressure of parenting. She made giving away a baby sound like a spa treatment. Then, I know you have always been strong in pregnancy, and Ethan speaks so beautifully about how natural motherhood is for you. Natural motherhood. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Then I replied, Ethan watched me nearly die giving birth to Avery. Do not ever describe my pregnancies to me again. No response. Good. The fallout was immediate. Ethan's mother called me cruel. She said Brooke was fragile. I said, so was I after I hemorrhaged. She said, this could have been a beautiful act of forgiveness. I said, then you carry it. She hung up. His sister texted, I know the request was unusual, but don't you want all the kids to feel connected? I replied, children do not need my uterus to be siblings. No answer. Ethan tried to say, I was weaponizing the folder. I said, you made the weapon, I'm just labeling it. The divorce filing went from slow and uncertain to immediate. Custody, finances, medical boundaries, all of it. My attorney specifically documented the request and my refusal. She told me, calmly, that I needed to make sure no one had access to my medical records or old pregnancy files. That sentence made my skin crawl. Because the fact that it even needed saying told me how far into madness we had gone. Mason overheard part of one phone call. Not the details. Thank God. But enough to ask why Daddy was mad. I told him, Dad asked Mom for something that was not okay, and Mom said no. He asked, was it about us? I knelt in front of him. No, sweetheart, It is never your job to fix adult problems. He nodded, then asked if he could have cereal for dinner. Children are mercy that way. They pull you back to the ordinary. Avery was too young to understand anything, except that Daddy was not coming inside the house anymore. That hurt. I will not pretend it did not. Boundaries protect children, but they do not prevent them from feeling change. Theo remained in Ethan's life, as he should. I never blamed that child. I never blamed any child. But I refused to let the existence of one innocent baby become an open invoice against my body. Months have passed. Ethan and Brooke are still together. As far as I know, they are not having another baby right now. Maybe Brooke's body still needs a break. Maybe Ethan finally realized surrogacy is not something you ask from the woman you betrayed over kitchen coffee. Maybe a lawyer explained it to him in words he could understand. I do not know. I do not care. What I know is this. I am not an incubator for closure. I am not a bridge between households. I am not a healing ritual with a heartbeat. I am a woman who carried 2 Bobbies, survived 2 dangerous pregnancies, and earned the right to decide that my body is not available for the comfort of people who broke my heart. People keep trying to make me feel guilty. They say, but the children. The children need love. The children need honesty. The children need adults who can sit with discomfort without demanding a woman sacrifice herself to make the family tree look prettier. Mason and Avery do not need me to carry their father's next child. Theo does not need that either. A future baby does not need to begin life as an apology extracted from my body. And Brooke does not need my womb. She needs boundaries. Ethan needs consequences. And I need peace. I still have copies of the folder. Family expansion option. The title alone makes me want to scream. But I keep it. Because sometimes when loneliness creeps in, it tries to make the past look softer than it was. It says maybe Ethan was just confused. Maybe he was desperate. Maybe he thought including me was kind. Then I read Brooke's note again. Natalie may say no at first. Remind her this could be healing for all of us. And I remember. They knew I would say no. They just thought no was the beginning of negotiation. It was not. It was the end. So tell me honestly, was I wrong for cutting off almost all contact after my husband asked me to be the surrogate for Brooke's next baby? Should I have seen it as a strange attempt to include me in the family? Or did Ethan lose the right to call it a gift when he asked the woman he betrayed to risk her body for the woman he chose? Tell me in the comments, because some people say surrogacy can be a beautiful act of love. But I think love stops being beautiful when it is demanded from the person you already broke. Follow this page for more stories like this.